Good evening, guys. Welcome to Life Apollos. Happy to have you here yet again. Now, if my social blade statistics are correct, that means today's episode is 999, meaning that whenever I do my next episode, that's the big 1000. And because I'm the worst of procrastinators, I still have no idea what sort of special thing I'm going to do. I'm sure I'll figure it out, hopefully, between now and the next episode. But enough about that, guys. We have a couple pretty big automotive stories to cover today on kind of two completely different ends of the spectrum. One of them, we're going to talk about the brand new spy shots released of the Aventador successor, and then the other side, we're going to talk about how the EPA is making some pretty big moves concerning the car world. And as always, guys, if you want up-to-the-minute automotive and supercar community news, make sure to sub to the channel and like the video. It helps us out tremendously. We do this pretty much full-time now. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, Beard Nation, welcome to the news for today. So our next story, I feel like it is in a long line of government positions or regulations that take aim at sort of the enthusiast part of the automotive world. If you guys will remember, a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was like a week and a half ago, we covered the fact that deep within the infrastructure bill, there was a new sort of kill switch that's supposed to be mandated in new cars. I think after 2026, it was essentially supposed to be some sort of big deal against like drunk driving, but instead it's so poorly written and worded that the government has the ability, based on a computer algorithm, to shut your car off whenever it feels like, if it thinks you're not driving appropriately enough. That's going to be on new cars after 2026. You can go back and check out our video on that if you want to check it out, guys. Not being talked about very much. You guys will remember that the EPA in particular took aim at modifying cars in any way, and I believe that battle is still going on. People are trying to save the ability to modify cars. I love modifying cars. I have been doing it for many, many years, and it just makes me very sad that so many things that the EPA does, whether or not they have good intentions or not, end up having detrimental effects on the enthusiast world. And I would imagine that today's video is going to be a little bit contentious in sort of how it's received. I think some people are going to love this news, and I think other people are going to hate this news. So let's talk about it. Car and Driver has a great article on it. EPA's new higher emission standards will mean a 40 mile per gallon fleet average in 2026. That is significantly higher than the current mile per gallon fleet average right now. The standards adopted today cover 2023 to 2026 vehicles and are the strictest yet. Another set of standards is coming for 2027 and later vehicles. We're going to talk about that, guys. Most likely, if I were to guess based on previous Biden announcements, you're probably going to see a fleet average of 52 miles per gallon. So apparently, guys, EPA finalized new emission standards on Monday, December 20th, that will go into effect with the 2023 model year and run through model year 2026. So they sell this as basically trying to benefit Americans by, your cars are supposed to be getting more miles per gallon, which means that you'll save money. That's how they basically sell the entire thing. I don't think that's... Or let me rephrase. I think that's a great idea and how to sell it in terms of like, if you're the government, you want to sell an idea, be like, hey, you're going to save money with this. But really what it does is it restricts automakers, in my opinion, to a degree that basically forces them to make certain cars that appeal to government standards. There's a general agreement these are the strictest fuel economy standards ever proposed, even higher than what President Obama asked for before President Trump rolled those rules back. I want to say that President Trump rolled back mile per gallon fleet averages to 32, and they are getting raised pretty significantly. So we're going to start right here. So while the EPA technically sets tailpipe emissions limits, not fuel economy standards, those are set by the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, these new regulations will, of course, impact the miles per gallon ratings of new cars and trucks. The new rules will mean that the fleet average will climb to around 40 mile per gallon in 2026 compared to the 38 mile per gallon average that appeared in earlier proposals. So they said they were going to do 38, they're doing 40, and that is just for the next 3 years. It's going to be significantly higher later. The most recent was from this past August, where the Biden administration said it would roll back Trump-era rules that loosened emissions standards and would have resulted in more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and a fleet average of just 32 miles per gallon. So I was right on that. The new rules are even more stringent than those proposed by President Obama and are expected to prevent 3.1 billion tons of CO2 emissions from getting into the air through 2050. And I'm not trying to harp on the environment here. I care about our environment. I see this as a move for the government to essentially phase out gas cars going forward. The mile per gallon fleet average, I think, will become so extreme, 50 to 70 miles a gallon, to whatever it happens to be, that eventually gas cars just get completely phased out. That's what Biden said he wanted to do by 2035, I believe it was. And I see this as the first step, like I talked about in that previous video, to where we're just not going to have gas cars anymore. There's a lot of different ways for governments to do this, and this is one of the steps that I think they're going to be taking. Now, just to be totally clear and transparent here, the article goes on to sort of quell some current fears that you might have. The EPA's new higher standards don't mean automakers can't build low mile per gallon vehicles, so gas guzzling models, man, they really hate this, like the Ford F-150 Raptor, I own one, and Chevrolet Silverado, which can drop as low as a measly 15 combined mile per gallon in some configurations, can remain a part of Ford and GM's plans. They have to offer a bunch of really high mile per gallon stuff to make the fleet average work for them. But that's not going to be that way for that long. The higher you raise that, I think it'd be pretty difficult if you raise the fleet average to like 70 miles per gallon, which they are eventually going to get to even be able to have any sort of vehicle like the F-150 Raptor at all. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misreading this. Maybe I'm too much of an alarmist on this. But anytime I see strict regulations where people are celebrating that the EPA is making ultra strict stuff across the board, it just sort of worries me. I love the automotive world. I love being able to have different cars and trucks, and these sorts of regulations I think will eventually phase out vehicles that we love and have loved for many, many years. Anyway, maybe it's all too in the weeds, guys.